You can't do that with antibiotics. They have a short period where they're effective, and then if that doesn't work, then you have to take another one, and it gets to be a dog chasing its tail. So in the case for the SIBO, the antibiotic that they're proposing for that's been the common therapy is $2,500 for 14 days, and you can't take it. You have to take it for a long period of time. And so even if you have insurance at Walgreens, it's over $300 for a prescription. That's crazy. Our capsules are around 14 cents a piece.
Welcome to the Wild Herbs Podcast, where we unpack and uncover the healing properties of wild herbs so you can heal naturally with the plants beneath your feet. I am your host, April Punsalan, wild untamed plant lady, also a botanist, an ethnobotanist, and herbalist dedicated to teaching you how to heal with plants. If you want to learn edible and medicinal plants, you are in the right place, my friend. So I'm really excited because today I have a special treat for you. I'm interviewing James Kishlar, and he specializes in growing and offering to the world amazing sweet wormwood products, Artemisia annua, and another African species, which he'll talk to you about, Artemisia afra. And he has founded Atelier temenos. James Kishlar has worked with sweet wormwood for many moons, and he's going to share with you what he has learned by growing this plant, offering it to his clients, and he has even been taking it, he shared with me, for several years. So you'll get to hear about his intimate connection with this plant and his experience in growing it and also processing it and then using it for healing. So thank you, James, for your time, and welcome to the Wild Herb Podcast.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Appreciate it.
So before we dive in, I'll tell you a little bit more about James. So for the past decade, he co-founded Signa Haiti, co-founded Signa Haiti, a reforestation, agronomic, construction, and phytobiological operation NGO in Haiti. He's an American architect, graduate from Washington University in St. Louis. And he has, as I mentioned, founded Atelier temenos, which is based out of Miami, Florida. And so I'm really excited to talk to you about your relationship with this plant, sweet wormwood, Artemisia annua. And I have your product, and it's amazing. And so I'm thankful that you were willing to come onto the show and share with us and share with the listeners your experience with the product or with the plant, with this wild plant that you're cultivating. So can you tell the listeners, what does Atelier temenos mean, your company name?
Yeah, that's curious. Atelier in France is like a studio where one tests experiments. It's like a artist studio where you can explore different ideas. And interestingly enough, temenos comes from a Greek term where the gods sat up on the clouds and looked down on earth and started trying to figure out how to deal with it. So the kind of two words come together, and I used it in some of my studies in France, and we just continued with the name here in Miami.
I like the name. When Dr. Pam Weathers told me about your offering and this product and you grow it, I looked you up and I was like, this is very unique. It's definitely not a name I've never heard that. Can you tell us, when did your path with sweet wormwood cross?
I really like to talk about that because it comes with my meeting with a group called La Maison d'Artemisia. They're in France, Paris, France. It's also in English, that would be House of Artemisia. They have a website. It's an NGO, and they address the tremendous epidemic of malaria in Africa. And what they do is they go in and they set up nurseries of Artemisia annua in rural areas where the malaria is. And they propagate and harvest and make a protocol of a tea for their constituents. And they have over 8 million treatments since 2013. And I did work in Haiti at the time when I came across this. I had projects in Haiti, and I became very aware of the issues there where medicinal, meaning medicinal suppliers, once funds became not available, the folks in Haiti were left on their own resources. So to see a NGO addressing this kind of an idea from the bottom up, growing it yourself, producing your own products to address a medicinal treatment, that resonated with me really hard. And so I met with the owner of Maison d'Artemisia, and we discussed how I could best help with their work. And she suggested that I get in touch with Dr. Pamela Weathers, who I believe you've had on a podcast before at the Winchester Polytech. And that's how it got started, to set up work with her here in Florida.
So you said 8 million treatments. 8 million treatments. Um,
They're in 23 different countries now. They've set
wow.
up a nursery, and you can go on their website. It's a beautiful website, Maison d'Artemisia, and even in English, it's House of Artemisia, and you can see the whole program. But it's one of those humanistic stories that one never hears about, but it's from the people working from the grassroots up and dealing with their own solutions. It's quite astounding. And they say 8 million treatments, and it's children and adults. Typically, it's folks who are already been susceptible to malaria.
And so is the Artemisia that's grown, is it the same Artemisia that you grow?
That's interesting. I'm working, as I mentioned, with Pam Weathers at WPI. They have their own cultivar that they've been working with for 25 years. And that's what separates out her clinical work from others, because she's been able to keep it consistent through cloning.
Mm-hmm.
She needed to find someone who could start to grow it here in the States on an annual basis, because her lab is up in Boston. And so she gave me clones of her variety of Artemisia annua, and we wrote up a contract so that it could be confidential, and I can't give it out. But that is how we're able to do quality assurances, by providing a product that is consistent. And of course, her variety over time down here in Florida has adapted to the Florida conditions that we have here. But we've been testing it analytically, and we're consistent with the artemisinin levels and the total flavonoid levels that she has from her variety grown up in Boston. So we feel confident that and when you deal with, and we're dealing with a lot of NIH, National Institute of Health grants, they have to see this kind of continuity, verifiable continuity, or they don't take it seriously.
Yes. That's what she was explaining to me, that it's really rigorous science, and it's hard to get funding.
Well,
I'm just curious, when you were in Haiti, was there a particular tree or a
yeah,
wild herb that
yeah.
people was really beneficial?
We met with the Minister of Agriculture, my associate, who's a expatriate Haitian, and he said they need 1 billion trees a year for 10 years to meet 1/10 of their reforestation program. And it's
Oh.
not not well known, but when Haiti took their independence from France in 1804, they wiped out Napoleon's army, and Napoleon said that, okay, you won this battle, but we're going to come back and annihilate every one of you unless you give us retribution. It took the Haiti government till 1935 to pay off their debt to France, and the majority of that debt was in hardwood trees.
Mm.
French Navy. So that's why when you fly over Hispaniola, you see a delineation between Haiti and Dominican Republic because they systematically work through from the highlands down all the hardwood trees. We needed to come up with a reforestation program, and we focused on Moringa
Moringa.
tree because it's 22% protein, more vitamin C than citrus, more potassium than bananas. You can go on and on. And it was already indigenous to Haiti.
Wow.
Yeah, actually, they in some places when folks were getting married, the wedding gift was a moringa tree if they had a place to plant it, and because they felt that way, they would never go hungry. This is a nice story.
I love that. I didn't know moringa was native to Haiti. It's nice to focus
It,
on.
it grows like a weed, and
Nice.
we had a USDA grant, and we're growing out 1 million of the trees a year. And then the earthquake hit. And when the
Mhm.
earthquake hit, all finances went towards those issues. And so it didn't go so much towards the trees, but it's a one I still grow it here for my own uses. And I still have about 2,000 moringa trees here.
Wow. I got some seeds. I had one plant in Charleston and it died.
Well,
And I had some seeds.
doesn't like the winters.
No, I think I would have to keep it almost, I would have to bring it inside in the winter, I think.
It won't like that either because it has a deep taproot and it won't be happy inside.
Yeah, you're right. I'll probably just better to work with the wild herbs here and not worry about growing moringa. My yard's 90%, 90 to 95% native stuff, but I do have a sheltered area that I do plant. I am starting to plant tropicals, but it's isolated so nothing can get out. It's like it can't escape. At least I don't think so. I'm sure it can. But anyhow, thank you for sharing that with me, sharing that with us. And I guess we should go back to Sweet Wormwood because you have so much experience. How long have you been working with Sweet Wormwood, growing it and processing it?
As I mentioned, I started getting a very small group of clones from Pam Weathers. And at the time, I had a native tree nursery in Homestead. So I had this
Mm.
going. And it takes 8 months from cutting to harvesting. And then I didn't know this at the time, but Artemisia annua is photoperiod sensitive, which means it has to have a certain amount of daylight or it goes into full bloom. And Artemisia annua is the only variety of wormwoods, which is the generic term for the Artemisia genus, that has artemisinin. And artemisinin is an anti-parasitical that's been WHO's primary malaria drug for decades. They won the Nobel Prize in 2015 for the isolation of artemisinin from the plant Artemisia annua. And the artemisinin is at the highest percentage in the plant just before it blooms. So
Oh,
we have to catch it just before it blooms,
wow.
or you don't have the full percentage. And it's a very small percentage of artemisinin in the plant to begin with. But we're finding that the synergy of the plant is really much more interesting than the pure artemisinin. This is something that Dr. Weathers and her lab has been able to discover, that the whole dried leaf, DLA, of Artemisia annua has more biovit in processing in the body than pure artemisinin. We don't
Yes.
understand all of that. Why? Because there's so many compounds. There's a fellow at, I believe, in Penn State that's been isolating the compounds, and I think it's a lot. And to be able to dissect each one of those as to what it's good. I think the importance is that the synergy of the plant is its strength, because
Mm-hmm.
particularly when you're dealing with parasites, what starting to happen with artemisinin is the parasites start to build a tolerance to artemisinin. But when you approach it with the whole plant, then the synergy of the plant is what keeps its effectiveness over a period of long time. Um, that's the idea behind that.
Thank you for sharing that. So, can you tell the listeners overall? I'm sure you have to tell people all the time when they ask you what you do and you tell them you're growing this plant. Like, what is your elevator pitch for Artemisia? Or how do you explain sweet wormwood to people? Can you tell the listeners what is sweet wormwood? I guess that's a good place to start. For some people, some of my listeners, or I should say, some of the listeners will know what sweet wormwood is, but some people won't.
It's important that you say that, because the genus Artemisia is like there's 500 different genus species, and the genetic term of wormwood seems to apply to all, but there's really two different kinds. One is an annual and one is a perennial. And Artemisia annua is the only annual of
Mm.
and it's the only one where you can derive artemisinin from. So it's really I come across a lot of literature that tries to capitalize on artemisinin in other wormwoods, but it's not the case. There are other synergetic properties in the perennial plants, and we have found that to be the case in our studies too, because we also grow Artemisia afra, which is a perennial. And we're seeing that it also has very favorable properties. But you asked me what my favorite part of processing sweet wormwood, and it's really about the quality assurances that are needed to bring certifications and clinical evidence-based studies. And we not only do we use the clones from WPI for continuity of the plant, but when we harvest it, we're certified organic, and we also have P certifications for our manufacturing. We propagate, we harvest, and we manufacture all within our own confines. It's a family-run operation, so we can keep the quality controls really in place. And we test out the products before we put it into a capsulated form, or whatever form the product is, to get artemisinin levels and total flavonoid levels, as well as analysis for pesticides, heavy metals, microbials, and mycotoxins. And so that to me is providing a quality assurance to people that they can know that it's safe.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Definitely.
know that's when the FDA looks at these products, they don't really care so much about whether it works or not. They want to know if it's safe. And you've got to prove that to them. And Pam has submitted to FDA what's called a GRA, GRAS certification, which means generally regarded as safe. And you have to show a whole lot of documentation to get their understanding of that. And then the second part is that I really like the idea that these small herbal leaves are actually helping people who have tried other treatments and haven't had very positive results, and they're getting them from us. So that makes me feel good.
Definitely. So, how many years now have you been growing sweet wormwood?
I guess we started in 2016.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you noticed an increase in the amount of people that are turning to herbal products or natural healing? Have you
Well,
noticed a shift?
I'll tell you, it's been a long process for me to find who would be interested in this, because
Okay.
we had all of this evidence-based clinical studies, and we had a lot of anecdotal evidence, but to get it into the mainstream medical profession, I had a lot of doctors who were sympathetic to wanting to use it, but their insurance policies and now they're in group medical facilities wouldn't take on that trial. So
Mm.
who I found now who have a receptive ear are the naturopathic doctors.
That's what I was just going to recommend, are the naturopathic doctors. Yeah, that's awesome that you're able to work directly with them.
Actually, we just started a small pilot study for SIBO, small intestinal bacterial growth. We're just starting a pilot with them with one of our products, and it's with Artemisia, and we're putting together the protocols for that. And they're with NUNM, National University for Natural Medicine in Oregon.
Wow.
And
That's awesome.
I think we found a good link there. And
Yes.
there's 23 states in the US that have certifications for naturopaths, and there is a federation of global naturopathic doctors. So it's starting to catch on. I think the idea, what's interesting about the naturopaths is it's a holistic approach to therapies.
Mhm.
And a lot of it has also to do with diet.
Yes, it was just so huge, which we know is
Most,
everything.
yeah, most physicians don't get that much of a nutritional background, and I wish they'd have more of it, but that's the case. So
Yes, I think one of my friends, she owns a nonprofit, a More Healing Kitchen, and she was saying that they only get like a day to talk about nutrition or something crazy like that, and not even a full day.
yeah,
So it is really sad.
yeah.
But let's go back to sweet wormwood. What do you think are its shining properties? Like herbal properties, like anti-inflammatory, antibacterial? Which ones do you think it has? Because a lot of plants share a lot of the same, I
Well,
guess you would say, actions. Herbal actions is a better term. It's actions. What do you think are its most shining
well,
properties and actions?
I have a list on our website for anti-inflammatory, antiparasitic, antibacterial, antiviral, and metabolic disorders. And within the
Mm,
conditions, I list the diseases that we have clinical studies and anecdotal evidence about. And it floors me to think that this plant can have that many efficacies, but it does. It's evidence-based scientific evidence. It's not just hearsay. Uh,
right.
but it's very important, as Dr. Withers, I believe, mentioned on your show, that not all Artemisia annua plants are the same. And that's why she has stayed with this particular variety, which she knows is consistent. But weather, climate, altitude, latitude, all kinds of conditions that affect the plant. So they don't all give the same amount of artemisinin and total flavonoids. And she's mentioning that because she gets a lot of folks who send her uh, samples, Artemisia annual samples, and that are commercially available, and they don't have they don't have what they say they have.
Yeah,
So
that was, yeah.
that's one of the dilemmas that we have with botanicals, and the FDA is starting to look at this very seriously. So it's important that you have a product that can be documented with quality assurances.
Definitely. And are there any specific elements that you talk to the naturopaths and tell them your product is good for? Or when do you recommend your product?
With the SIBO, it came around through several of my clients who had anti-inflammatory and antiparasitic conditions around schizomyces. And schizomyces, I don't know if you're familiar with it, it's caused from a parasitic flatworm that's delivered through a freshwater snail. And we don't see so much of that in the United States because we've pretty much eliminated that particular snail. But these folks contracted it in Bali, and they contracted the other one was in service in Afghanistan, and they actually were able. Their whole family was contracted with it, so it wasn't just from freshwater flatworms, and they had spent years trying to determine, get a proper diagnosis because all of the labs here in the States didn't have a proper blood test for this particular parasite. So Dr. William Miller, who's the CEO of V Pharmaceuticals here in Florida, he was one of these clients who came up with a test for this particular parasitic worm. And so they were able to determine the percentages, and then over diagnoses with Artemisia, with Artesinua, we've been able to wipe it out. But it's been a long process, and they're continuing with maintenance dosages. But so the folks were familiar with irritable bowel syndrome and Giardia conditions, which is also a gut situation. And there were previous studies with the Chinese medicinal herbs against antibiotic, known antibiotic, and it turned out that this Chinese concoction, I call it, several different herbs, Artemisia vulgaris, I believe, was one of those. It was a perennial when Artemisia annua was one of those herbs. So I was able to approach them and say, let's just have a test just for Artemisia annua, just to see how that works. And so that's what got their interest. And so that's why I was able to start this pilot with them.
So the Artemisia annua, sweet wormwood, using it for parasites, what would be your recommended dose and for how long?
Within this antiparasitic group, there's malaria, and there's Lyme disease, and there's schistoliasis, there are IBS, there's also a verona mite that we're working with. It's a parasite that attacks bee colonies. So each one the dosages are different. With with malaria, the folks at Maison d'Artemisia, it was the tea they were using because they didn't have a lot of appliances to be able to process much. They did 5 grams a day in 1 liter of water, and for 2 weeks. And that was their protocol, and still is. With Lyme disease, Pam actually contracted that. She was up in the Boston area. It's from a deer tick. And I think in your part of the woods, they also have quite a bit of Lyme disease. She contracted in 2022 and then this year. And she took an antibiotic for 2 weeks, and in combination with the Artemisia annua. And she was able to get rid of her Lyme disease, but it took almost 3 months. So each one is very different. And so it pretty much, this is one of the things we don't know that much about the dosages because there haven't been that many in vivo tests with Artemisia annua. In vivo means with humans.
Right.
So it's pretty much my safeguard is, depending on what it is, if you have a really bad case of it, we start with 5 grams, which is, our capsules are 375 milligrams. So you take 3 a day, 3, 3, and 3, 3 in the morning, 3 at noon. And you do it for 2 weeks to see if it's affecting you. Now, I say a lot because we haven't really been in the commercial side of this for a very long time, but we have not one incident of any of our clients coming back with any residual negative effects from taking it. And this is one of the really advantages of a product like this, because we can show that it's safe for a long period of time.
Yes. When I open it and smell it, it smells so fresh like the plant. And then the capsules, when you look at the capsules, it's a bright, beautiful green. So you can tell it's really good quality, that it's dried properly and processed well.
Yeah. And the capsule is a pullulan capsule, which is quickly digestible. So it enters the bloodstream really quick.
So I was taking two in the morning and 2 in the evening. And so when you're recommending it, and I know it depends on the condition and what people are taking it for, But let's just say that someone had inflammation and they wanted to turn to it. I think Dr. Pam Weathers was saying that, I don't know if it was you or someone was taking it for arthritis. Let's say you had inflammation. What would be a safe everyday dose? You're suffering from arthritis or you're suffering from joint inflammation.
Yeah, I was diagnosed with osteoarthritis in both hands 4 years ago. And the pain, osteoarthritis, I don't know if you're familiar with it, is a degeneration of the joint where your thumb goes into your hand. And it's non-curable, but the pain is like needle, someone sticking you with the ice pick all the time. And the
Mm,
remedy is surgery where they go and reconstruct the joint. And I started taking the caps. I took 6 a day, 3 and 3, 3 and 3,
mm.
and I started getting relief from the pain. And so now, even now, I've been taking it for 4 years daily, but I only take 3 caps. I don't recommend anyone taking less than 3 caps a day. That's just 1 gram. And but we also have quite a few clients who have been taking it for rheumatoid arthritis. And and it's a colleague. Most of them are in the agronomic business, and she's been taking 6 caps a day for rheumatoid arthritis. It's a completely different type of arthritis. Actually a virus, and she's gotten mobility back, and the pain's gone for her. So, as I
That's great.
as I said, I'd be happy. I'm not a physician. I can only make suggestions based upon our evidence-based antidotal work as well as the clinical studies that are out there.
Right. And I was going to ask you, that makes me think about how this plant is working on the body. And you talked about flavonoids and, of course, the artemisian. But are there other phytochemicals that you think help give it this anti-inflammatory effect on the body?
Well, I'm not, I really couldn't address that from a botanical perspective because I can just steer you in the direction of a Google search for that.
I do a lot of research on flavonoids and polyphenols and antioxidants. And basically, all my research, it just underlines how important antioxidants are, and flavonoids are antioxidants. And so
Right.
they really help with cell repair and slowing the aging process down. And there's all this science that shows that if you flood your body with a lot of antioxidants, you can stop the aging. And some people are even trying to show you can reverse the aging, but they're doing this like in rats. But I can imagine that the flavonoids and probably the phytochemicals in this plant really help to protect or repair cellular damage.
As I said, there's so many different compounds that are active that I can't say just specifically which ones are more effective than either. It works in a synergy. The one thing that has been the most dynamic for me to comprehend and try to relate to folks is that's the real beauty of this whole concept of naturopathic medicine.
Yes, definitely. And not isolating the plant. I love that it's the whole plant and the
Right.
capsule and not just the artemisian. And so you work with a lot of clients, and do you have, besides arthritis and Lyme disease, are there other conditions that people have come to you or using this product and you've had good testimonials?
I can give you a couple National Institute of Health clinical studies that WPI has been ongoing with, and one of them is for tuberculosis.
Mm.
And they're showing that there's strong antimicrobial activity against the Mycobacterium tuberculosis. That's with both Artemisia annua and Artemisia afra. For antiviral, the coronavirus, there's also an NIH study with Pam early on for the coronavirus, where they show efficacy against RNA viruses, SARS, coronavirus, and the variants of the UK and the South African, the P1 and Delta, and so far there's others. That's an NIH study. It is effective, and that really was one of the things that started me to take the capsules to begin with as a prophylactic for COVID.
Mm.
And we found that a lot of our clients are taking that as well. We have a physician up in New York who was familiar with when artemisinin was discovered, but he was reluctant to use any of the commercial products because he didn't know the quality of the artemisinin or the quantity of the artemisinin until he found ours. And now he's suggesting that to all of his clients. So we get that. In diabetes, we have quite a few clients who have been taking Artemisia on a daily basis, and they indicate lowering their high blood sugar levels. We even have one new client who has an older Chihuahua, and we have a pet product, which is the same 100% Artemisia annua in a capsule form. It's just a little smaller, and was diagnosed with diabetes. And so we're seeing how that works.
Yeah, I'd be curious.
Yeah. And then fibrosis, that's an ongoing study WPI is involved with, where we're showing efficacy with fibrosis. And I actually have a topical cream that we used on 2 clients here with a cancerous surgery. And the dermatologist, after surgery, allowed them to use it was a client of ours who was familiar with our products, to use Artecrem, which is a topical cream. I think I sent you a sample of it. And where there were wounds that couldn't be sutured, all of the wounds were treated without an antibiotic and were closed within 6 weeks without fibrosis scarring. Fibrosis is a pathological wound healing that causes scars and thickness in tissues.
Mm.
In lungs, it makes it harder to breathe, and in wounds, it leaves a residual scar tissue. And so what we are able to show is that we're healing topical wounds without any scar.
That's amazing. So that product is amazing. And I'm very thankful you sent that to me. And I actually gave it to my mom. So I should probably tell her to save it for if she wants to use it for wound healing. More so, you think,
I'm sorry.
than to use that product that you sent me more for wound healing, because I gave it to my mother.
Yeah, that could be used as wound healing.
Okay.
Yeah. We were trying to get, we've submitted the product to FDA for registration. The issue is that it's a new ingredient that they're not familiar with. So it's going to take a while for them to be able to come up with registering the product, but it's working. I can send you some pretty gory pictures of some of the wounds. But
Wow.
the other fibrosis studies are more internal, and Pam has a graduate student who's continuing that story. He's actually presenting a paper on fibrosis in St. Louis next month. Let's see, lupus also is another anti-inflammatory and antioxidant. And there's evidence-based clinical studies that it reduces oxidative stress and reduces joint.
Mm.
I'll be attending a South Florida lupus convention tomorrow, actually.
Wow. And is there because I feel like a lot of the plants that I study, a lot of the wild herbs I study are anti-cancer. I think there was a little bit of research out there that shows that the plant is anti-cancer too.
You have to run that by me again. I'm sorry.
The plant is Artemisia annua anti-cancer, sweet wormwood.
Is it anti-cancer? There are clinical, I don't have them in front of me, but there are clinical studies that show that it, particularly on liver tumors, there's a lot of different kinds of cancer.
Yes.
One thing that I can mention regarding that fibrosis scars, as I said, it was surgery to remove the cancer from the hands and back. And the healing was without antibiotics, and there's no residual cancer. So we're keeping our fingers crossed on that. But I don't have that much information on cancerous conditions.
And I have the Artemisia annua. I bought the one, it's 330 vegan caps, 375 milligrams. And I was taking 2 in the morning and 2 at night. So I may go to 3. Do you recommend taking it on an empty stomach or with food?
I don't think it matters.
Okay.
I haven't found it to matter for our family. My whole family has been taking it for 4 years daily. And that was the other thing regarding Lyme, and what I need to try to emphasize again is because we've shown that it's safe to take for long periods of time. When you have conditions like with Lyme, Lyme it lasts for a long time, and you need to be able to take a product that you can feel safe taking for a long time. And you can't do that with antibiotics. They have a short period where they're effective, and then if that doesn't work, then you have to take another one, and it gets to be a dog chasing its tail. So in the case for the SIBO, the antibiotic that they're proposing for that's been the common therapy is $2,500 for 14 days, and you can't take it. You have to take it for a long period of time. And so even if you have insurance at Walgreens, it's over $300 for a prescription. That's crazy. Our capsules are around 14 cents a piece.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I love your product. So, can you tell people how to find you? I'll put a link to your website at the bottom of the show notes, but is
That's
that the best place?
that's the best place. Yeah.
Okay. So I will put that. It's Altir Temenos. If to find the website link, definitely go to the bottom of the show notes. Is there anything else that you think that we didn't touch on about sweet wormwood that you would love to share?
I just think the primary thing is when folks are approaching botanicals, that they really do the research behind it to make sure they're getting what they think they're getting. And meaning there needs to be strong qualitative assurances, testings of what's in the product and the safety behind that, which is done. There's such a discrepancy out there with commercial products that it tends to bring down the authenticity of the products and what we're trying to do. I think that the FDA is going to be more critical about that, and not that I'm all behind the FDA. They play a vital part, but they've also made it very difficult for us to be able to get our position known. But those would be the things. And when it comes to wormwood, be very understanding that there's only one wormwood, sweet wormwood, if you call it, or Artemisia annua, that has artemisinin in it. All the others do not.
Thank you. That's great to understand. Yes, it's important to know the quality of the product that you're buying. And so that's one of the reasons why I really wanted to have you on the show, because I was very impressed with your product and how good it smells and the brightness and vitality of the herb in the capsule. You can tell that it was processed really well. So any of the things that we talked about today, anyone who struggled with Lyme disease or tuberculosis or is traveling to another country where there's malaria, I'm sure it's probably good. Would you say it's good to take these capsules before and during your travels to
You brought up an interesting idea around malaria. Just this year, we have the first diagnosed case of malaria in the United States. And with climate temperatures increasing and the way in which people are traveling from country to country where folks aren't taking the inoculations, malaria and dengue fever, although a lot of these mosquito-borne diseases may start becoming more prevalent in the United States. It's not just when you travel, it's something that may be with us for a long period of time.
Thank you for your contribution and for growing such a wonderful product and for your time for being on the Wild Herb podcast. I thank you very much, and definitely go to the show notes. And if there's a specific element that we talked about that you think you would like to try, sweet wormwood, I highly recommend the product. So anyway, thank you again, and I look forward to having you back on the show.
Great. Thank you, April. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Definitely take the time to scroll to the bottom of the show notes and click on James's website, Alteria Temenos. It's a hard one to get the spelling right, and it's not going to be one you can Google. So definitely click the link, share the show with a friend that you think can benefit from taking sweet wormwood. It is an amazing product. I bought 2 big jars of it, and the capsules are a beautiful bright green. And when you open the jar, you can literally smell the essence of the plant, which speaks volumes about the quality of this product. All right, well, I want to let you know too that the in-season membership is open in May. I have so much goodness inside the membership packed in. There's mimosa, there's magnolia, cattails, and other wild herbs that you can learn how to work with and start making medicine today. You can jump in the membership right now. It's only $25 a month, and there are so many bonuses. There's a bonus on the medicine making, so you can learn how to make medicine and get started this spring. All right, thank you so much for listening. Please share this episode with a friend that you think could benefit from taking sweet wormwood. Stay wild.